Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I hope it's not too early for anyone that was celebrating Medallion last night. That was a blast. Before we get to the main event, I do want to take advantage of this captive audience and provide you with a few reminders. If you haven't already, please mark your calendars for the AGM. That's on March 31st. It will be hybrid, so you can enjoy it either on screen or in person, whichever your preference. Also, in terms of education, we've got a few accredited courses coming up. The Resilient Realtor, that is 1 week from today. I've heard great comments about this course, so if you've heard of it and haven't attended yet, it's happening next Friday on the 13th, and there's going to be another session in May if you can't attend next week. And also on the 13th, same day, a week from today, Introduction to Urban Planning. And then lastly, on March 16th, Introduction to Listing and Selling Commercial Investment Property. Again, that's on the 16th. If you want any information about that, you can either go to the website for more information or you can call us directly at 730-3000. All right. Now today, we're here for how to spot risks before listing or buying. This is our third and final installment related to permits that's brought to us by Eric Jensen of Spruce Hill Homes. They're located on the North Shore. And if you weren't at the two previous sessions, let me tell you a little bit about Eric. He's a self-described builder, a tech nerd, and a business owner. He left a cushy job, he says, in IT to follow his passion for construction and earned his stripes on the job sites before founding Spruce Hill Homes and growing it to become an award-winning operation. Love that. You'll see today that when he says he's a no BS communicator, he means it. He delivers practical, actionable advice that helps you and your clients. So without further ado, I'm throwing it over to you, Eric. Wow us yet again.
Hear ye, we are screaming it from the rooftops because apparently the basement still isn't up to code. Welcome back to Permits Demystified, Session 3. Today we are hunting for the ghosts of renovations past. Before you list that charming fixer-upper or sign on the dotted line, you need to know, is it a dream home or a nightmare waiting to happen? We're showing you exactly how to spot the risks before the ink dries. Stop guessing, start inspecting. Let's find those red flags before they find you.
Did I
All
mention
right,
tech
let's dive
nerd?
in. Hey, gotta keep everybody entertained, Jenny. Right?
You're
Let's
right. You're absolutely right.
gotta keep them coming back for more. All right, so welcome back to everybody that has seen my. Actually, before I get going, Jenny, thank you so much for the kind words in the introduction. As always, really appreciate it and really appreciate the opportunity to be here in front of all of your members and appreciate everybody for taking the time. Obviously, welcome back to those of you that have been here before. And welcome to those that are meeting me for the first time. I'm excited to kind of sort of loosely meet you, so to speak, and share a little bit of my life experience with you guys. So let's dive right in here. So I've got a slide here about kind of my background. I do have my degree in computer science, so like I am an educated nerd. I am also a member of the Home Builders Association of Vancouver. On that, I'm on the Government Relations Committee and also on the Renovation and Custom Builder Committee as well over the years. I have, or my team and I have been acknowledged and awarded two finalists for Georgie's and Haven Awards, and I think we've been, or sorry, like winners for those, and then we've won like 20 or more, or been nominated for 20 or more over the years. So we take a lot of pride in what we do, and we're pretty happy with what we do, and our clients are too. So there you have it. And what else do you guys want to know about? Jenny pretty much said everything else I was going to say. So let's keep moving. So I thought it was a smart idea to just recap what we talked about in the first couple of sessions. So in session 1, we talked about why and when we need permits. So you'll recall the why was life safety, the ability to get home insurance, getting a mortgage, and obviously resale can be affected without permits for sure. When do you need permits? Any sort of new build, I mean, it's pretty obvious, and any sort of renovation. The general rule of thumb is if you add, move, or remove any wall, whether it's structural or not structural, it does not matter. If you remove any wall or move it or add one, you're supposed to get a building permit. And also if you are adjusting any sort of window sizing. Um, Lead time for permits. I mean, how long is a piece of string these days, honestly? The fastest we've seen a permit in the last couple of years was 6 weeks, but we've also had one take over a year. So it really depends on the project and the jurisdiction and any sort of development permit areas that the project might be in. On in session 2, we talked about the risks of ignoring them. So you'll recall we talked about, deals potentially falling apart, which meant no commission for you, fine folks. Financial catastrophe for the person, the homeowner. We showed a couple case studies. One of the more prominent ones was that home in West Vancouver that had like the massive coach house at the back of their property and totally unpermitted. Probably it looked like a million and a half sort of coach house at the back of their property, and they were told they have to tear it down. So that's not a fun experience, I'm sure. There's obviously, and that kind of leads to legal repercussions as well. Where these things kind of poke their heads, pre-listing, right? As you guys are getting ready to list these homes, you might catch some stuff during home inspection. So before somebody actually transacts and removes subjects, certainly at appraisal, they can definitely come up there. And then finally at underwriting, when the lawyers are going through everything and looking to see what is or what has or hasn't been done on the property when they do any sort of legal title search. Because if you get that comes mostly from like if you have a stop work order that leads to an order to remove, that gets actually put on title, and that can really make it hard to transact on a home. And we did talk, there was I think 2 or 3 case studies we talked about that kind of help to explain what that looks like. So feel free to go back and watch those sessions. Who doesn't want more of Eric, right? Said nobody ever. All this to say, guys, is I want you to trust your spidey senses. Right? Trust them. If something seems amiss, trust your gut. Okay, so today, this session is going to be an opportunity to learn and see past pretty renovations, and then identify the structural and legal risks when they have not been done with permits. I'm going to give you some really, really good images and tips and tricks for things to spot and watch for when you are looking at homes to list and or when you're walking through a home with a potential buyer. My hope is that at the end of this session, you guys will feel a lot more confident to give your clients really solid advice and guidance of things to look for and things to avoid. I mean, honestly, my hope for you guys is that you feel more confident in your jobs and your clients believe in you more because you have all of this additional knowledge that I relay to you today. Fingers crossed that I achieve the objective. So yeah, turning red flags into informed decisions. And then, like I said, we're going to create a framework of things to identify, right? Then we're going to really start to understand the true cost of remediation. So we've got a couple case studies. And finally, my team has put together a Greater Vancouver permit contact guide as like a takeaway for you today. So that'll be shared out with the slides next week sometime. And we've just gone ahead and put together a comprehensive list of the different jurisdictions and who to call or email to make inquiries about permit statuses for the property that you're listing. So, now that we've covered what you're going to walk away with, let's start to put those tools into practice. So, your eyes are going to be your best data source when it comes to figuring out what is or isn't right with a property. So let's take a minute or 20 and look at the visual red flags that you can spot the moment you pull up to the curb, right? So let's look at the exterior of a home. So one of the first things I do when I go to look at a home with a client or a realtor or something like that, I don't even go inside. The first thing I do is I walk around the perimeter of the home and I look at the foundation and I look for any sort of cracks. Now, I would say a crack of the size that I'm showing on the screen right now is definitely one that I would be really worried about. It's spanning the entire foundation, and it looks, I mean, it's hard to judge, but it looks to me like it's an eighth of an inch or more gappy at the top there. So an eighth of an inch, like a good rule of thumb, like if you are looking for something to kind of visualize, is like the a pen, like the shaft of the ink shaft of your pen. That's about an eighth of an inch. Um, and so look for any sort of cracks, because that could tell you that there's structural concerns that need to be addressed and modified, and or I mean, it gives you an opportunity to up sorry, it gives you an opportunity to possibly negotiate the price down because you do have those structural concerns. You know, same thing for if you have stucco finishes or anything like that. Look for any cracking or anything like that in the stucco. That's going to tell you that maybe there's some excess settling that's happened, and that is something to be concerned about. Look for any sort of rot on the exterior wood product, right? So look at your fascia boards, like, you know, the stuff that's behind your gutter or at the end of the peaks of the roof. Look for any sort of rot or anything like that. And I, you're not going to like to hear me say this, but look for fresh exterior paint. Like if the home is recently repainted on the outside, you're going to want to dig even deeper and look even harder, because a fresh coat of paint can often mask and hide really serious underlying issues. Like, I mean, you can paint over rot. You can do it. You shouldn't, but you can. And so, you know, if it's a fresh coat of paint, you're really going to want to scrutinize the exterior of the home and get in there with a fine tooth comb. As you're walking around, I want you guys looking up the side of the home. Look up and look at the soffits, right? Look to see any water staining or mildew or anything like that up there. That's going to be a sign that there's some sort of water issue. Same thing if you see any sort of standing water on the outside, on the window trims or windowsills. Like, again, these are just things to, doesn't mean that there's like you got to throw the house away. It just means it's you want to dig deeper and look a little bit further and confirm that there's no other more sinister issues at hand. You know, grading of landscape stuff, right? So we want to make sure sidewalks and driveways are sloped away from the house, and in the event that they aren't for whatever reason, that there's some sort of water management system in place, be it a drain, like a visual drain, or you know, maybe they did a French sump, something like that, so that they've just got a big gravel pit to spread the water around. Just start asking questions, and you know, get inquisitive is probably the best way to put it. That's about it for exterior on that side of things. As we're walking around the outside, we also want to be looking for any signs of oil tanks and failed windows. Now, on the outside of a home, a sign of an oil tank is like basically, I'm trying to think of if I have something that you can easily use. A lot of the time you'll see like a notch in the exterior trim that was the old vent for the oil tank. And that is a visual indicator that you can look for on the outside. So just be very, very careful that you're looking on the outside for any possibility that there is an oil tank. Now, if you're on the inside of the home, and this is like, if you listen to nothing else that I talk about today, this is probably because we just came across this last week on another project. Remember these two 1/4 inch copper pipes. Those pipes are 1/4 inch copper, and those were the fill lines from the oil tank to the old oil furnace in this home. If you see two 1/4 inch copper pipes like that coming out of a slab in a basement, 99.9 repeater percent sure that there was an oil tank on the property at some point in time. And that is an absolute red flag for you to start digging way deeper and ask a lot more questions. Oil tank remediation. I think we could do another session on oil tanks and oil tank remediation. I could go on for a long time about them. I think we all know that they're bad news. The other thing to think about and look for are foggy windows, right? The second you see a window with this kind of condensation in it, that is telling you that the seal has failed and the window is no longer performing at all. Like if you see a foggy window like that, basically you've just got a single pane window. Like there is no energy efficiency being afforded to a home through this window. It's just a single pane window at that point in time because the seal has failed and it's no longer acting as a double pane window. Now you know. Moving to the inside of the home, one of the things that you can do is walk through, and what I do anyways is I stand up on my tippy toes and I let myself drop right onto the floor. And what that does is it gives you an idea for how strong the floor is or isn't. Like, is the floor always going to shake? Yes. It's just how much it shakes when you do it. Because if the person standing beside you just feels the floor kind of vibrate a little bit, all right, you're good to go. But if the floor shakes enough so that the person standing beside you thinks that they're going to fall through the floor, you definitely want to dig a little bit deeper. And I can speak with absolute passion on that topic because we just finished fixing a project that had that exact experience. You kind of even just walked on the kitchen floor and it was crazy, like how much it bounced. It turned out it was actually structurally sound, but I was like, there's no way we're leaving this like that for the client. So the engineer came up with a creative solution to stiffen the floor joists. But again, right, especially in a home that's had any sort of renovations, that bounce test is going to let you know if some structural silliness has occurred. It's a very polite way of putting that. I'm proud of myself right now. Um, Look for cracks in drywall, ceilings, and around cabinets, right? Look for those same sorts of cracks in the drywall. If you see any sort of hairline cracking or anything like that, whatever, that happens, settling, it happens all the time. Again, like any sort of crack that's an eighth of an inch or bigger, that is generally a really good indicator that there's some sort of more sinister structural concern in place there. You can also walk around the home and see if you can feel that the floor is sloping towards one wall or towards the middle. And we've all been in those homes. So just another something for you to think about. Well, my team is reminding me that I should go back and remind you what an oil tank is. So an oil tank is one of these ugly suckers and it gets put underground. They have above ground oil tanks, but these are ones that are below ground. And again, I could do an entire session just talking about oil tanks and what they do and how they work. But this is what they look like when you take them out of the ground. All right. Staying on track here. So yeah, watch for sagging floors, ceiling lines, or headers above doors and windows, right? And what I mean by that is the line, if you will, above a window or a door sagging? Is it kind of sort of smiling at you? And if it is, that is generally a good indicator that something hasn't been engineered correctly. Depending on the length of the beam, some beams just sag under their own weight, and that's normal, and that's part of the engineering process. But just look for excessive sagging. Doors that don't open and close well is a good test, because if the door has stopped opening or closing, well, chances are pretty good when it was originally installed, it opened and closed just fine. So again, these are just all reasons for you to get inquisitive and start asking questions and figure out what's going on with that home. So, in an older home, if it has an open concept to it, you want to make sure you've confirmed that load-bearing walls were properly removed and engineered when that work was done. As a guideline for you, a 2x10 floor joist has a practical span of about 14 feet. So if you're in an older home and a room is longer in both directions by 14 feet, get inquisitive, ask some questions. Any sort of bonus room or converted space, like weird steps. So we were at a house the other day and there was literally like a step up to the deck from the bedroom. Like, yeah. Like bedroom, deck. No, that definitely was not done with permits, and definitely is not a going to be watertight and be safe in the long term. Really, really weird. But again, just something for you guys to look for when you're helping clients purchase homes. Um, any sort of awkward layout or something that just doesn't seem well thought out. I mean, I have been in a few new homes lately and I've wondered who thought of this layout. But if something just seems really off, it might be a case that it has been done incorrectly. Now, I have in one of the pictures here. Oh, is it going to be friendly? If you see missing grout between your tiles, that's the only way to fix that, folks, is to rip that floor up and put down an anti-fracture membrane and retile the floor. Like there is like regrouting that will not fix that long term. Like almost 100% guaranteed. So it's just a sign of a poor installation. And certainly as a buying agent, it gives you an opportunity to go back to the seller and say, hey, dude, like this is not cool. We're going to have to rip these floors out to fix this and negotiate a better price. Look for any fresh paint and fresh paint and isolation. Again, like we always talk about, like the best ROIs pre-sale is paint. But as professional realtors, if there is fresh paint, it just means you guys have to work a little harder, especially as buying agents, to really see like, what, if anything, I should say, has been covered up. So just, again, get inquisitive, right? Like, are we hiding cracks? Are they hiding some sort of water staining? Maybe along the baseboard, if you see swollen baseboard, but it's like freshly painted, well, I mean, that would tell you that there was probably some sort of water ingress at some point in time. And then they've just painted over it to make it look pretty for sale. So just think about that. Again, door casings, window trims, look for the swelling, look for things that are just not as they should be. And it may not mean anything, but it may mean something. And all you guys can do, in my opinion anyways, is just ask some questions and get inquisitive and see what's going on. And certainly any sort of good home inspector is going to be able to identify any sort of potential moisture issues using a moisture meter. I mean, that said though, folks, the cost of thermal imaging cameras and the cost of moisture meters has come down so much more. I mean, I would strongly encourage everybody to own both of those devices, like a moisture meter, less than $200, a thermal camera. I think you can get one that attaches to your phone for less than 500. I could be wrong on that. So don't quote me. Nonetheless, the technology is available and it's not that expensive. So, it's certainly something worthwhile considering, right? Is there anything else that I should be talking about on that? No, I think that's pretty good. We've covered over all of that. Now, we often hear about watch out for knob and tube wiring. And I figured, well, there's so many people that talk about knob and tube wiring, but they have no idea what it even looks like. So this is what knob and tube wiring looks like. These are the tubes that go between the joists, and then these are the knobs that they attach to. And that's what causes house fires, because the housing on the outside of the wire over time breaks down, and then the conductor becomes exposed, and that's what starts the fire. So that's knob and tube wiring, not good. So if you see this in a basement or something like that, major red flag. And then this lower picture here, folks, is a picture of what's called poly B piping. And poly B piping is, to the best of my knowledge, always going to be gray. So if you see any sort of gray PEX looking pipe, get inquisitive, ask some questions. On the outside of the pipe, you'll see some sort of black lettering on all of it, and it'll say poly B or polybutylene. Either one, not good. And the reason it's not good is the pipe just breaks down over time and starts to leak. And so there's actually several class action lawsuits that have been filed against this company because this product is such garbage. So just be aware, if you see knob and tube or poly B, there's some significant costs for replacing either one of those. I mean, it's not over the moon significant, but it ain't free. That's for damn sure. So just be aware of that. One of the things that I coach my team and I'll coach you guys to look for is, as you're walking through the home, look for consistency in electrical switches and plugs and cover plates. That can tell you a bit of a story. Like if you have a mix and match of a bunch of different things, you really want to make sure that um, that whoever was doing that work kind of sort of knew what they're doing. As homeowners, we're allowed to replace our plugs and switches. There's nothing stopping us from being able to do that. But again, like not all homeowners know how to do it well and safely. So just make sure that that work has been done correctly. I would strongly, if your home inspectors aren't opening up the electrical panels and looking at the wiring behind the cover, find a different home inspector that will do that, because we absolutely want to see the condition of the wires that are going into the breakers behind that cover of the electrical panel, right? One breaker gets one wire. And the number of times I've been on sites where electricians and homeowners have done some bojang nonsense and put 2 or 3 or 4 wires into a single breaker, not okay. Does not meet code, fire safety, big no-no. So, watch for that. The other thing to look for too is like when those panels are removed, is it an absolute like Medusa's hair cluster behind the panel, or is it like nice and tight and organized, right? If it looks like it's been done professionally, you can definitely be a little bit more confident that the electrical work in the home has been done professionally. If it looks like a rat's nest, again, just you need to ask some more questions. It doesn't mean that the home is a write-off. It just means that we need to ask some more questions and confirm that it's safe. Any plug near a water source, a water holding apparatus, shall we say. So bathtubs, showers, sinks. I mean, I think we all know that, but just a reminder, we want to make sure that we have GFCI ground fault plugs at those locations. And a ground fault plug is going to ensure that your clients don't electrocute themselves by accident. And that is a life safety sort of issue. I'm a big fan of GFCIs. I could talk about arc fault breakers. Not a fan of those. GFCIs, big fan of those. The last thing I want you looking for when it comes to the inside of the house when it comes to electrical inside of the house is any sort of exposed Lumex. And I didn't even think to put a wire or a picture of what I'm talking about there, but any of the regular kind of, it's usually like got a white housing, a blue housing, a red housing, or an orange housing. If you see that kind of plasticky housing and that's exposed where somebody can touch it, that is a safety concern because it needs to be protected by something, right? Like it should be protected by metal, like, and that's called BX, Bravo X-ray. And that is safe, right? If you have exposed metal and there's wires inside of that, that's cool, no problem. But if you have just a plastic housing on the outside, no bueno. Now, the other thing that we should just mention when it comes to all of these sorts of things, especially poly B and knob and tube, is getting home insurance for homes that contain poly B and knob and tube is almost impossible. Most insurance companies will not touch those homes because they have such a high possibility of having future issues. So just be aware of that. Now, when we're going through the home, let's look underneath some sinks, right? If we see this IKEA nonsense underneath the sink, I mean, does it work? Sure. Does it meet code? Hell no. So just make sure that you are looking for this stuff and you're advising your clients that, hey, this is going to work, whatever else, but it definitely does not meet code. And I'm referring to this accordion style gray piping here. It comes in gray and black typically. Not good. No good. Garbage. Terrible. And the reason being is like stuff can collect in it and cause problems. So that's why it doesn't meet code. Now, the other image that I have here is just to kind of show dissimilar metals touching one another. And what I mean by that is like if you have a copper pipe and rubbing up against that is like, say, galvanized ducting for the HVAC system, that is going to ultimately leak because throughout electrolysis, the copper pipe is going to fail eventually. So we want to make sure that we have something in between. Like, literally, all you have to do is put a piece of paper, honestly, between the copper pipe and the galvanized metal. But I mean, typically we like to wrap it with insulation or something like that that's permanent and isn't going to fall down eventually, to prevent that electrolysis from happening and prevent the home from flooding. So, um, do do do. Oh, oh, this is a good tip for everybody. When you are going through a home, it's going to seem really random to your clients, and maybe you brief them on it before you do it, but flush all the toilets. Maybe run a sink or two. And the reason we want to do that is if those toilets flush normally, drainage is okay. But if those toilets are really slow draining, or the tub is really slow draining, or a sink is really slow draining, it could be a case that there's a bunch of hair blocking the drain and just needs to be cleaned, not a big deal. But it could also mean that it hasn't been plumbed properly. So if we see any sort of slow draining sinks, tubs, showers, or toilets, again, we want to get curious. We want to get inquisitive. We want to ask more questions, and we want to make sure that there isn't something more sinister happening behind the walls. And that is a really easy something that you can do with your clients. And I don't know, I think it'll make you look smart, but maybe you think it'll make you look dumb. I hope not. But I think it's a great something that you can do to just test how the home functions. And I think it also helps, in my mind anyways, if I was a client, and be like, hey, this person really cares about me buying a home that works and functions properly. So anyways, those are my 2 cents. Now, let's talk about how to spot an illegal suite. So identify any bedrooms that have window openings smaller than 4 square feet. And that is like the amount of space you can get out the window. Building code requires at least 4 square feet or more for a human to get through, for fire egress. A legal suite will have a dedicated electrical panel, right? It will not be connected to, or it won't be connected to the home's main panel and all the breakers on the home's main panel. A legal suite will have its own dedicated electrical panel. Look for smoke alarms that are interconnected between the suite and the main dwelling unit, right? Those all need to be wired together, because if there's a fire in the basement, we want to know, the people living upstairs want to know that there's a fire in the basement so they can get out of the house as well. Very, very important. A common something that you can easily catch for to kind of find the difference between illegal and legal suites are shared ductwork. And a lot of illegal suites, which are still okay to rent out. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, but if you're trying to determine between legal and illegal, a legal suite must have its own electrical panel and its own heat source. It cannot share any sort of ducting with the main dwelling unit. Really, really easy rule of thumb on that. Obviously, the one exception to that is radiant in-floor heating, but that is not a very common, nice thing to have. Yes, perfect. So I've got a couple of case studies that I'm going to rip through here because I know that I'm taking a little bit more time than I normally do, but I feel like of all of the sessions we've done so far, I feel like this one has lots of really good, actionable, practical tips. So bear with me for another 2 to 5 minutes, and I'll get this wrapped up for you folks. Then we can do some Q&A. So from a case study, this was a home that we got involved in. So the homeowner hired a landscaper to build a retaining wall. They spent about $70K on this retaining wall at where that dude is standing there. It was about 12 feet higher than the neighbor's property. Anyways, they never got any permits, no structural design, no nothing. And so, unfortunately, the neighbor saw that the wall was starting to bow and called the district. District came in, and the clients were forced to tear down what was there and rebuild something. So They spent 70 grand on the first iteration of their not so awesome retaining wall, and then brought in us to repair it and redo it. And I think, do I have the number there? No, I don't. 176,000 was roughly what they spent to make it right. So, um, yeah, I mean, there can be some pretty significant repercussions for people that choose to do work without permits. And I mean, this is a really good example of what that is. And so I one of those things, this is another project that we did. And when you went into this home and when you visited this home from the outside, everything would look really pretty and nice. But if you actually followed some of the tips and tricks that I gave you already in this session, there were the accordion drains underneath some of the sinks. There was some other goofy stuff going on when you started to look at the window trims. The window trims on the outside didn't look quite right. And it turned out that the person that sold the home had done like what I would qualify as like a lipstick reno and put siding over top of siding and did a whole bunch of things that really didn't make a lot of sense and certainly weren't to code. And so we were brought in to, I mean, this is actually another example of like, we went in to go and do some work for these clients after they purchased the home, and we needed to pull a permit for it, but their home actually had open permits on it that didn't get caught before the home transacted. And so we had to get this suite back into compliance with the it was District of North Van, I think, in this case. So anyways, major headache for these homeowners. And I mean, all they did was buy a home that they thought looked really pretty and nice, right? So just be aware. So again, open permits, remember, make sure you're inquiring about any sort of open permits. Your clients on the buyer's side are going to inherit the previous owner's shortcuts. So just make sure you're protecting your buyers. Spotting a missing permit before the deal closes proves you are looking out for their investment and not just your commission, right? You can't see through drywall, but you can see through a city file. So I would say being the agent who says the finishes look great, but the lack of a closed permit makes me nervous, I think it's going to really help to build a level of trust with your clients that cannot be touched in any way, shape, or form. So that's a wrap. Conclusions and takeaways. Have that walkthrough detective mindset. No permit might mean no value. Spotting issues early is a win-win for you and for your clients. Use the framework to inspect exterior and interior systems. Unpermitted work, it doesn't add risk. It doesn't just add risk, it fails to add real significant value. And that, Jenny, is all I have to say about that. I could keep going, obviously. I got a whole bunch more rounds in the chamber over here, but I know we try to keep it down to 30 minutes because there's usually quite a few Q&A on these things. So
there's usually a lot of questions. I have to say, I take myself off camera and I mute myself because I literally laugh out loud when I'm listening to you.
thank you.
Does this look okay? Hell no. Cracks me up. Before we get into the questions, I do want to make a comment. Doug made a good point in the Q&A about expertise. So these type of sessions that we're doing here with Eric are meant to help you determine when you should be more curious than usual, as Eric said. But Eric has years of experience as a builder. He is a subject matter expert and you are not. So unless you are a subject matter expert on that, make sure that when you see the things that Eric tells you to look for, you get more input from a subject matter expert like Eric.
100%.
So, okay, now let's get into the questions. I'm just changing up my view here. So
before we go into the Q&A, I'm going to plug myself twice today, which I've been very remiss to do the last couple of sessions. But if you don't mind, we are going to be holding bi-weekly live sessions, Ask an Expert live sessions, and we will share the links out on the follow-up slides that come with this. They're also on the screen right now. And then the other thing is we're really interested to hear what you guys might be interested in learning about in the future. I want to make sure that the content that I'm delivering to you folks is relevant and meaningful. So you can either scan this QR code if you've got your phone in your pocket, but if you're on your phone, Alejandra, I think, is going to post the link to the survey, and it's a word cloud sort of thing. So um, really look forward to getting people's feedback and thoughts on that.
All right. So one thing about the link for the word cloud, before anybody looks for it, I've just sent it to Cheryl so that she can pop it in there. But in the interim, let's start going through the questions.
Yes, let's
And
do it.
exactly. So very first question came around the time when you were talking about the tile floors with the grout that's failing. So what causes grout to fail?
Yeah, so what causes grout to fail is the tiles are moving. And the reason the tiles can move is because the floor underneath the tile isn't good enough. And usually that means that it's only got like a 5/8 or 3/4 inch plywood underneath it, and they haven't used any sort of other anti-fracture membrane underneath it, Jenny. So
Okay.
what happens is the tile moves, and grout is just concrete, right? I mean, realistically. And so as a tile moving like this, that grout just kind of gets ground down and it starts to pop up, and it certainly comes up as you vacuum and whatever else. So that's the root cause.
All right. And then similar here, drywall crack or ceiling corner crack. Normal settling, poor installation.
Usually normal settling, I would say. I mean, it depends on the size and the magnitude of it. But I mean, drywall is kind of like concrete; it's just waiting to crack. I've said that joke before, haven't I, about concrete? There's two types of concrete. There's concrete that has a crack in it, and then there's concrete that's gonna crack.
There. So positive. All right. Going to oil tanks for a sec. This is a question for me. Do we have a GVR endorsed oil tank clause for our contract of purchase and sale? BCFSA and BCREA are both silent on this topic, and Elise has inquired many times. I'm afraid, Elise, we do not either, because we do not have lawyers on staff to craft these clauses. So we always follow suit with BCFSA and BCREA. And then also on oil tanks, what are the signs of soil contamination when there's a decommissioned oil tank in the property?
There aren't any. From
Okay,
from
so
above the oil tank, there's no
right.
sign. There's no way to know that there's any sort of contamination. The only way that we're able to discover any sort of contamination is during the removal process. There's
Okay.
no way to know. That's what's so unsettling about having an oil tank on a property. And I've seen oil tank remediation cost $10,000 to $15,000, and I've
Ugh,
seen oil tank remediation cost $150,000 to $250,000. So
yowza.
like that is the order magnitude of the seriousness of oil tanks on a property.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
And yeah, I think the other thing to just add to that, I'm
Yes.
in case anybody doesn't know, the way that the law is written is that any sort of remediation work when it comes to oil tank is burdened to jointly and severally every owner of the property. So if you were the owner of the property 20 years ago and you didn't know there was an oil tank, somebody 20 years later can actually come back and sue you for damages. And that's the way the law is
That's rough.
written for oil
Yeah.
tanks. So it really is like, I try not to be too melodramatic in our sessions because everybody is just going to roll their eyes at me if I am.
That's the no
But
BS part, though. You're telling the truth.
well, this is just it. Yeah. Yeah. You do not want to deal with oil tanks for sure.
No. Going back to tile grout, you really got people's attention with that. Could the tile grout
Awesome.
just have been missed in that spot? So regrouting versus redoing the whole floor.
Great question. Um, it really depends on the scenario. Who asked the question?
Anonymous attendee.
Well, Anonymous, great to meet you. Glad that you were here. And yeah, it really depends on the magnitude of it, right? Like if you have like just a missing like little bit like this, or maybe even that much, you might be able to say that like it was missing grout. But like if you're missing grout between two tiles, the entire length of the tile, probably a
Get
crappy
curious.
floor. Yeah, get curious. Get
Get
curious.
curious. Yeah. Um, this one, I'm not sure about context. Hopefully, it will mean something to you. James would like to know if aluminum with pigtails is okay in your mind.
Yes. It has to be
Excellent.
done right.
Okay.
And I, unfortunately, James, I can't remember how it needs to be done right off the top of my head. I just know that it can be done and it can be done safely, but it does have to be done correctly.
Properly. Subject matter experts. All right. Megan would like to go back to the knob and tube. If it's been decommissioned, is that an issue?
No, who cares?
Excellent. Does decommissioned mean that they've moved to a different type of system, but the knob and tubing is still in place?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Got
mean,
it.
the same question can just to, before it gets asked, the same thing can be said for poly B. If it's
Okay.
no longer conducting water,
Yeah, I got it. And letting water flow through those pipes.
yeah, if there's no, holy smokes, Eric. If there's no more water flowing through the pipes or electricity flowing through the wire, who cares? It's just litter at that point in time.
Got it. Okay. Were there specific years that poly B was common?
Yes, that's a great question to which I should know the answer, but don't. I want to say, you know what? I will
Send
find out.
us the answer with the recording and we'll put it out there to the members. Does that work?
No, I just Googled it. 78 to 97.
78 to 97. Ooh, so a big swath of time. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks for that. And then Anna heard that if heard from a plumber that if the poly B is cemented in the floor, that there's less of a chance of having problems. Fact or fiction?
I don't know enough to answer that question
Okay.
accurately. I think it might be. I lean more towards fiction than fact.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. So Anna, that means look into that a little more, please. Also, do you have a picture of the vent if the house shows a vent that probably had an oil tank?
I looked for it on that house that I was at the other day, guys. Because I was so excited to maybe be able to have that image of what it looks like. I don't. Trying to think, like, what do I have? Oh. All right. So just to give people perspective, this is a
Okay.
normal size pen, and that's the size of the pipe roughly.
The width
So
of the
you're
pipe. Yeah.
looking at this part kind of going into the siding, like you kind of like a U that's
Yeah.
been a very round U that's been carved out of the trim.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that. Um, can the GFCI be linked or does it have to stand alone at trouble spots? This is for Doug.
No, it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be linked.
The question is, can it be linked or does it have to be standalone?
No, it can be linked. For sure, it can be linked.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I mean, to answer that question a different way, Jenny,
Yes.
there are GFCI breakers. So you can
Yes.
have multiple plugs on the same GFCI breaker. I believe I believe it's possible for a GFCI plug to work over multiple plugs, but I'm not 100% sure on that one.
Okay. All right. So Doug, talk to an electrician.
My
Um,
my angels in the background are saying that ChatGPT says that poly B is as likely to fail in concrete as out of concrete. So that
oh,
is
interesting. Anna, I hope you heard that. Thank you, angels in the background. All right. How do we know if it's a GFCI plug?
Um, Great question. Maybe I should put together like Eric suggested realtor toolbox.
Hey,
That could be kind of fun.
it,
There are plug testers that you can use that have like a GFCI test button on them. So that's
oh, I've
one way you
seen
can do
those.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously like a GFCI plug, I mean, if it's an actual GFCI plug, it's pretty obvious. It's got the two buttons right on the front of it. So
That's what I was
I mean, that
thinking.
is pretty
Okay.
much the
All
only
right.
plugs that have those two buttons are GFCI plugs.
Okay. All right. Good to know. So, Sharon said she was recently speaking to a contractor about GFCI, thinking that they should all be the same around a sink, but recently learned that they can be on the same breaker, so they do not all need to be GFCI. So that ties into what you were just saying.
Yep.
If one goes, they all go. How can we tell if in fact they are connected or if they just cut corners? Wow, good question.
Yeah. Well, so there a GFCI plug will have the test button on it, which will kill the power to that plug. So if there are other plugs that are daisy chained to that plug, the
They should
easy way
all.
to do it is to test it and then get a lamp or any sort of other electrical device that you can and plug it in and see if it turns on or not at the first plug, and then just keep moving it around and
Right.
see what plugs still work or don't work. That's the easiest way around that one.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, if there are slow drains, can an inspector ascertain if it's just hair or bad plumbing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, the only okay, and I don't need to get flamed by the environmentalists in the comment section now. Um the only way to figure it out, if it was just hair or not, is to throw some Drano down the drain and follow the instructions on a bottle of Drano, and if that gets rid of the slow draining sink, then it was just hair. If it doesn't,
Okay. All right. Um, do suites need their own hot water tank or can they share
no.
one?
Yes.
Yes, they can share. No, they don't need their
Share.
own.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you go figure out, where do you find if there is an open permit?
The municipal hall. Best bet is to go in person, because getting somebody that works for the government to answer the phone is,
Yes.
trying to be politically correct here, Jenny. But
Why start now?
yeah, best thing to do is to go in person to district hall and make an inquiry. But of course, the handy dandy sheet that we prepared for you guys will have contact information that you can reach out. But if you are looking to get a swift answer, chances are the contact information that we're going to give you is not the way to get a fast answer. So if you're trying to get a deal done and you're trying to get it done in a quick way, you're going to need to manually move yourself to district hall and make an inquiry in person.
All righty. Okay. Um, did you say a legal suite has a dedicated electrical panel or an illegal suite?
No, a
Oh,
legal suite,
as in no I in front.
a
Does the
suite
legal
that
suite?
is, I'll word it the best I can here. A suite
Okay.
that is truly legal and has been done to the current BC building code has its own dedicated electrical panel.
All right. Okay. Fabulous. Thank you. Okay, so you've already answered about the permits and you've answered about Poly B. The third question from Anonymous is, when did they stop using oil tanks?
They have it.
Right.
They're still in use in a lot of different
Hmm.
areas. But we stopped. I mean, I think people realized in the late 90s, early 2000s that putting them underground was a dumb choice. And especially putting metal oil tanks underground was a dumb choice because they degraded. But I mean, obviously they use plastic oil tanks underground for gas stations. That's where the gas
Mm-hmm.
is stored, is in massive
Mm-hmm.
plastic barrels
Mm-hmm.
underground. Yeah.
I used to live in a different market, and yeah, functioning oil tanks were still quite common, and
Yep.
people liked the feeling of the heat as well.
Really, there was a difference.
Yep. Yep. Apparently. Yes.
Hadn't heard that before. Interesting. Cool.
Okay, so you know the furnaces that have the big octopus, they've got all the different things going on.
Hmm.
Okay, please explain a bit more about authorized units and also the difference with registered suites. Authorized and registered being the key words there.
Well, authorized equals registered, I believe, right? Like that's like registered equals authorized, authorized equals registered.
I rem
Um,
I remember reading an article not too long ago that different municipalities use different language for this. So I think this might be part of that. Like maybe in Burnaby, and I'm just pulling a name out of the sky right here, but maybe Burnaby says authorized and North Van says registered, that kind of thing.
I think the best way to kind of think about it is like a Venn diagram, right? And
Oh yeah.
so, um, right, a legal suite is a legal suite, but a legal suite could be authorized, but it might not be authorized or registered because the homeowner has decided that they don't want to have it rented out as a legal
Oh,
suite.
good point.
Yeah. An illegal suite can also be authorized or registered. Just depends if the owner has registered it at City Hall or not.
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah, I mean, it very much depends. But yeah, a legal suite is something that has been done to, sorry, I'm speaking too quickly. A legal, no IL, a legal
Yeah.
suite has been done to today's building code.
Got it.
That's the best way to describe it.
Okay, Alex, I hope that helps answer the question for you. I think this question is broad, not sure what you're going to be able to do with it. How much does a permit cost?
Um, I had a calculator for that built at some point in time. It really varies based on the project size, and that's really all I can say to that. It's a function of how much the declared value of the renovation is. That's how much it costs.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Also, before we get to the next question, I just want to remind everybody that there is a QR code on the screen right now for us to build a word cloud about what we would like to see, what you would like to see rather, in a next
Hmm.
session. And those links have been put in the chat. So you can be doing that while we are going through questions. I also want to say we started off with roughly 30 questions. It grew to over 40, grew to over 50. We currently have 66 unanswered questions, so we're going till 11:30 if anybody wants to stick around. So next question, slightly off topic. How come junior, one bedroom, two bedroom, etc., apartments exist if the bedrooms have no windows or they're not legally considered as bedrooms?
Sorry, can you say that one more time for me, please?
You bet. How come junior one bedrooms or junior two bedrooms, etc., apartments exist if the bedrooms do not have windows? Can they really basically, the question is, can they be considered bedrooms legally if there's no windows, there's no egress?
Okay. I am not a lawyer. I do not have my law degree, and I am not in a position to offer legal advice. This is not financial or legal advice.
Heard.
The only way a room without an opening window that is 2 feet by 2 feet big with a place for somebody to crawl out or escape to can be called a bedroom is if it has fire suppression in it, i.e., fire sprinklers.
Interesting. I did not know that.
So if the home is sprinkled, right? If we have fire
Mhm.
sprinklers in the home, those egress requirements are softened
Interesting. Okay.
because the like you're like nobody has ever died in a house fire that was sprinkled.
Sprinkled.
Not ever.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you asked the question, Dimitro. That was really good information from the non-lawyer. Um, Emma said, you showed a few pictures of a mechanical room with shelving. Is there a problem with that?
No.
Okay.
No, that was when we finished it. Like that was like we cleaned it up. It was a mess when we
Ah,
that
got it.
that
Okay.
crawl space. I mean, the client's name was Mabo. I don't know if I should share that or not. I don't care. Anyways, it's a great couple, wonderful human beings. And he was a model plane designer.
I saw
And
that.
so, yeah. And like he took me, anyways, like he designed some crazy stuff. Really cool.
So he's
And
excited
so,
with that shelving.
yeah. No, he was stoked. I mean, that crawl space was just like a dirty mess. Like it was just dirt. There was old lumber in there. Like in that particular project, we actually found an interior wall that had been framed with regular lumber right on top of dirt.
Oh boy.
And they had
Oh boy.
literally like hidden, they put boxes in front of the bottom of the wall for the home inspection. So you couldn't really see it. And I think I had it in one of my notes and I just probably forgot to say it. But like, when you're doing some of these walkthroughs, like if you see a piece of furniture or a box someplace that it just doesn't really make sense why that piece of furniture or box would be there, move the bloody thing.
Yeah.
Like, see if there's a reason why it's there or not. I mean, you're not going to hurt anybody or anything. I mean, maybe your back, I guess, but yeah, move it. Like, see what's there. Why is that there?
Exactly. Tina wants to know what's an accordion drain.
It was that gray junky garbage that I showed you. It's well
The
here.
pipe under the
Well,
sink that
yeah,
looks like you
yeah.
could squish it back and forth.
I got multiple things going on over here. So let me just see if I can. Whoa,
Try to pull up the picture.
I'm pretty handy with this stuff sometimes, Jenny. Not all the time,
Well,
but sometimes.
you've got the education for it. Um, Perfect. That one right there. Yeah.
This garbage, this stuff right here,
Tell us how you really feel.
it's garbage.
All right. Heard. Okay. You mentioned drywall thickness could identify if a suite is legal or not. What is the correct thickness?
Five
Thanks,
eighths.
Karsten.
Great question. 5/8 is the number.
5/8?
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you. Um, can we ask the seller if there have been any water-related losses, pipe burst, sewer backup, water overland, service line in the last 5 years? How do we spot any potential water-related problems in a house or a building? I mean, asking the seller is the beginning.
Water staining is really the water staining and swollen. If you go into a home and like, the flooring is kind of like hardwood flooring is kind of lumpy, like at the joints, the floor is kind of lifting up along the length of the boards. I mean, that's pretty much a surefire guarantee that there was some sort of water issue in the past. What else? Yeah, swollen baseboards. I mean, swollen anything, drywall, baseboards, whatever, like that is like almost a guarantee that there was some sort of water issue.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Um, Usually knob and tube houses aren't insurable anymore. There is one company that does something that makes it insurable. Do you know that company and what exactly they do?
No,
You've never heard of them?
no.
Okay. Um, this person wants to know which insurance company insures Poly B, but I thought I heard you say none.
To the best of my knowledge, there are no insurance options for homes with poly B or knob and tube wiring. Poly B, they might be a little bit softer on because I've gone into a lot of homes that have it, but I think half the problem is like a lot of people don't know that they have it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, and so I guess the concern there would be if I were them, like, um, you know, what are the, like, I would go to my insurance company and say, hey, am I covered if I have a leak and I have poly B that I don't know is there? I mean, that might be asking questions that you don't want to have answered, but
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I think you just all you can do is ask the questions, and for sure make sure when it comes to these sorts of things you get the answer in frickin' writing.
Mm-hmm. 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 Um, Ming says a detached home with a detached garage where a crack is found on the concrete floor. There's not actually a question there, but I'm not sure, Ming. Are you wondering, should the crack on the concrete floor in the detached garage be a concern? Do you
I think
draw anything else from
that's
that
probably what they're
question?
asking, Jenny, and I'm gonna say I'll go back to my previous statement about concrete.
If,
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
there's two types. Now, the size of the crack and how much it's settling or whatever else could give you an idea that like what's underneath the slab is not right, right? Like, I mean, again, hairline cracks and that sort of thing should be expected. Like anybody that thinks that concrete is going to stay perfect and have no
Right.
cracks in it ever is literally living in la la land. Like and then I am being funny because I try to make this kind of sort of entertaining, but like it's also true. There are literally two types of concrete: concrete that has got cracks in it, and concrete that will have cracks in it. It's just a function of
Back and forth.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, Thank you. Farhad says, thank you for the great info. What's the best way to tackle nail pops in walls when the previous homeowner does not have the original paint?
Great question. Probably the best thing to do is to take your Olfa knife and cut out like a 2 inch by 2 inch square of the drywall, right? Like nice, clean, sharp edges. Carve in behind it using like a putty knife or something like that, so that you lift that 2 inch by 2 inch square out and you don't hurt the paint, and you get like a really good sample of what that paint is. And most paint stores will be able to color match that for you.
Oh, awesome. All righty. Um, how much can,
remember re-
yes,
remember remember we prime before we add the paint, right? Just because you're just fixing a couple of screw holes there, we gotta prime first. Of course, if you use Benjamin Moore Aura, where is my frickin' money from Benjamin Moore
yeah.
to plug them? uh, um Aura doesn't require primer, but almost every other paint does, so you gotta prime any sort of drywall mud.
Okay. All right. Good to know. How much can we count on the oil tank scanner result as most of the sellers cross the oil tank clause if there is a scan result? Alex is asking that. I think he's saying they
Well, I
cross.
don't think you can't like the oil tank. An oil tank scan is it's extremely, once again, this is not legal or financial advice. An oil tank scan really is doesn't mean a lot. It means that they might have found something under the ground, but it also could mean that they didn't find what they should have been finding underground. So it like an oil tank scan is, from my understanding of how the technology works, they're looking for metal underneath the ground. And so
Right.
I've had it and I've seen it where there was like a whole schwack of nails that were in the ground, and an oil tank scan came up and said, hey, there's an oil tank here. Um, but it was just nails. So they're quite inconclusive. Really, like you see those copper pipes and like that little half moon sort of carve out from exterior
Right.
trims. Like look at your exterior trims on the siding. Look up at the soffit. Like that is what you want to be looking for.
Number one clue. Okay.
Yeah,
I know you've answered this. I'm afraid I've forgotten the answer. Does a legal suite need to have another circuit box?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. How
Sorry,
much
just
does
to
Eric
clarify.
charge to do an inspection from a builder's perspective? Heidi, I think you should reach out to Eric directly. He can chat to
Yeah,
you.
I agree with Jenny.
Yeah. Okay. Here, let's see. You mentioned shared ductwork means illegal suite, but
Yes.
I'm working on an offer on a 2010 built detached home with a legal suite, which pans out with the city, but how can you be absolutely sure? It has separate electrical panel, but no separate thermostat for the suite.
Well, how's the suite getting heat?
I think that's a good question. I'm assuming somebody upstairs is controlling that.
So
Yeah, not sure.
if that home, without having the ability to speak to you directly, if that home has radiant floors, like hot water radiant floors, then that's probably kind of sort of okay. I mean, not ideal because I think as a tenant, you'd want to be able to control the temperature in your own space. But if it's hot water radiant floors, you're okay. If it's
Okay,
electrical baseboard heat throughout the entire home, also okay. Also highly unlikely for a home built in 2010. Um, I'm I'm guessing that this is through shared ducting, and um, to the best of my knowledge, it is you might be dealing with a suite that is authorized or registered, but not legal if there's only one thermostat in the home.
got it. Okay, thank you. By the way, our questions are up to 80. They're not going down, they're going up.
I know I see us answer them, but then it seems like my answers generate more questions. So maybe I'm not
Thanks.
answering these questions very well.
No, I think you're just getting the juices flowing and oh, I should ask this, I should ask this. Small water stain in basement suite ceiling. Moisture meter test is fine. Investigative work, any additional investigative work required?
Um, I mean, it could be that there was just like a one-time leak upstairs or something like that, and that it's a nothing burger.
Right, got
But it could
repaired, but mhm.
it could also mean that where the leak was originating from stopped being used. And I see that all too often, right? Like, people see that their shower's leaking and it's causing a water stain on the ceiling below, so they just stop using the shower. They don't bother to fix it. They just stop using the shower. So, I'm not lying. Like
I
I've seen
know,
all of
I
this
know.
stuff. So,
Okay, I've got two questions here that are very similar. Many older houses have sloping floors. Is that a big issue? And the other one, a lot of homes slant or dip to one side.
it, it,
Is that
it's
normal or
it's
a concern?
it's normal. It's the amount of slope, right?
Right.
And I would say for me, like an inch of slope over 40 feet, whatever. I mean, like,
Yeah.
big deal. An inch of slope over 10 feet? No.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
At
it's
least,
it just how weird, how bad is it, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If if everything just moves over, if you don't have it locked in, probably a problem.
Well, to give
Um,
some examples on that, Jenny, like, I mean,
mhm.
we've done work on homes that were literally like the original builder fell all the trees on the property and literally just put crisscross the trees underneath the dirt, covered over top of it, and built the house on top of the trees. Yeah.
Why?
Well, it's cheap,
Oh
right?
wow.
You don't pay to remove the trees. You don't have whatever. Like, you
Yeah.
just clear the lot, build on top of whatever you cleared.
Yeah.
It turns out that over time, trees decompose.
Go figure.
Yeah, there were some significant issues, and that can be fixed through screw piles and that sort of thing. Like, it's solvable problems, expensive solvable problems, but they are solvable problems. But yeah, um,
Okay.
the
All
other thing
right.
we see a lot are like homes, like, if you're on a home that's on a fairly steep embankment, right? you really have to kind of think about the proximity to other sort of things that might cause it to be an issue.
All right. Lisa missed your comment. She said, what's the concern with rooms over 14 feet? And I think you were talking about beam span at that point.
Joist span. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Older home. And sorry, to qualify or quantify older home, like I don't think we started using engineered lumber until the 80s. So if the age of your home starts with a 70 or younger or older, I suppose, right, they were all built with dimensional lumber, and 2x10s are good to go up to 14 feet. And that is your most typical floor joist size.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And before I get to the rest of the questions, I have seen several that are similar. They're asking about the recordings from your first two sessions. So I'm just going to put it out there in case people are continuing to put the question in the Q&A. We will be sending out all 3 session recordings when we send out this third one, which will be sometime next week. So you will get links to all 3 recordings. All righty. Can we get your contact information, please, for any future questions? So you'll see on the final slide that Eric's information will be up on the screen
It is
right there.
not this one, but it
Oh, yeah.
is that one.
There you go. Yeah. Eric also has live sessions that aren't related to us. So sign up if you want to participate in those.
Well,
Okay.
considering we only have 14 minutes left and 81 questions, hope I don't want people to start hanging up the phone. But with your permission, I would be privileged to answer these questions in our coming live sessions. So
Oh,
if your
they're
question doesn't get
absolutely.
answered today,
Yeah.
I will do my darndest to answer any question that's been left unanswered in future live streams.
Perfect. And before it goes away, I'll do my best to get screenshots of all these questions. Or Cheryl, if you're listening, can you send me a note to say, do we have the ability to see the questions in the Q&A even after the session ends? Okay. If it's relevant, a crack in the garage floor, do you think, if it's relevant, a crack in the garage floor, do you think it's something to worry about? So I think you touched on that before. I guess it just depends on.
Yeah, it just depends on how big and how bad it is.
All right. And Cheryl has already confirmed for me we will have access to all the questions in the Q&A. So 100%, if you log in to Eric's future live session, he will be answering those questions there. All right. Dimitri says, when creating attic living space, should there be a vapor barrier on both sides of the insulation board or just on the warm inside right before the drywall?
Well, technically speaking, we want the vapor barrier on the inside, warm side of the drywall. So just a reminder that um, vapor barrier and air barrier are 2 different things.
Okay.
Air is anything that stops air from moving. And so air movement can be stopped through plywood. It can be stopped through concrete, spray foam. Most spray foams can stop air movement. Poly can also stop air, but my preferred building technique is to get the air barrier done through the plywood using Sega tape to tape all the joints so that you get your air barrier on the outside of the home, and then use vapor barrier paint on the
Oh,
inside of the home.
I've never heard of vapor barrier paint. Okay.
I know.
I'm loving these questions. I'm learning so much.
Those are great
Um,
questions.
I've had a listing where the owners removed the oil tank themselves in the 70s, like dug it out themselves. But we need a permit, right, to remove an oil tank. So how do we check if all was removed properly?
Dig a hole.
Dig a hole, because you've
If
already
it was,
addressed how a scan might not answer that question
yeah.
properly.
I mean, if it was removed in the 70s, the chances of there being any sort of gratuitous leakage underneath is lower, because chances are it was decommissioned and dealt with before it started leaking everywhere. But the only way to know that there's no contamination is by digging a hole down to the depth of the bottom
Yes.
of the oil tank.
Yes.
The bottom, not the top, the bottom. The oil is going to leak through the bottom of the oil
Hmm.
tank. So we
Hmm.
need to get down to the bottom. And trust me, if there is contamination in that soil, you will know about it immediately because it smells bad.
Ooh, okay. All right.
Smells like diesel. Well, it is
Oh,
diesel.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you really got everybody's attention with the cracks. If there's a crack in the foundation, can it be repaired or is it a sign that the issue will be persistent?
It can be repaired using epoxy, pressure injected epoxy. It can absolutely be repaired.
Pressure injected epoxy. Awesome. Okay. Um, do you know about any time limitations to go after a previous owner if an oil tank is found?
I do. Infinite.
Okay. Infinite.
And that's what I said. Every
Wow.
owner of the property is jointly and severally liable for the remediation costs. So the home that you, whenever you owned your first home, if there was an oil tank on that property and it gets discovered after the fact, now the current owner needs to be able to figure out who you are and find you to sue you, of course.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, for the like, there's no limit, infinite.
Okay. Scary. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So no shortcuts there for the sellers. Um, okay. Tina has two questions. Is it important to check the sump pump?
Yes.
Okay. And we've not talked about roofing in these sessions too much. Tina's wondering, should we be looking at it?
You know, Tina, now you make me feel like a dumbass because I absolutely should have talked about that when we're looking at the outside of a home for sure. Old shingles, any sort of asphalt shingle that's cupping, cedar shingles that are split or anything like that, definite warning signs. And if the roof looks old, if a roof hasn't been replaced in 20 years or longer, for most roof types anyways, best to get a professional roofer on site to inspect the roof and see how much life it's got left in it.
Okay. And don't be so hard on yourself. So, so we've already established that oil tanks can still be in use today,
Hmm.
but do you know when they actually stopped like making that the primary way? Like what years do you really find them in? What was prevalent?
Well, that's a great question. Uh, Let me find out. When
Okay.
did oil tanks start? So 1930s to the 70s is when oil tanks were the most common practice for homes, and they started to phase out in the 60s and the 80s. So, in the 80s, definitely fewer oil tanks being used, more people going to propane and natural gas.
Yeah. Let's stay on the oil tank for a sec. When you do remove the oil tank, should you remove all the piping as well, like the picture you showed of the pipes in the basement floor?
100%.
Okay.
And sorry, the reason why we want to remove the piping in the basement floor is so that you don't have these questions being asked when you go to transact on the home again in the future. Like if you're going to
Yeah, like
remove it
just
on the outside, remove all the evidence that there was an oil tank so that you don't have to deal with that objection in the future.
and probably potentially spend money proving that it's gone.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Um, does adding pot lights with piggyback wiring require permits?
Technically, yes.
How about modifying a kitchen and moving the sink?
Definitely, yes.
Definitely. So technically and definitely, Bennett. Okay.
Electrical and plumbing permits, not building permits. We've talked about that in previous sessions, but just a
Yes.
reminder, Bennett, right? Like you don't have to go and do the whole send building permit. You can get just trade permits. So you can get a gas permit, a plumbing permit, electrical permit. You don't have to get a building permit for those little scopes of work, but you should get a trade permit.
Okay. And Zach, you've laid out a scenario about an oil tank and sadly a deal that went south, but your question isn't there. Your Q&A says my question is, and then it's not there. So if you haven't added it, because again, there's still 75, maybe you realize that and I'll see it later, but I just want to point that out. Fanny would like to know, is there a difference between vertical and horizontal interior wall hairline cracks?
I mean, they both say the same thing.
Okay, all right. Does the property lot need to be a certain size to accommodate an oil tank? Like, is there a lot size that's too small?
No.
Okay. Do you have any idea on the cost to replace poly B piping?
It depends on the size of the house and how many kitchens and bathrooms it has. In order to, I mean, usually what we end up doing is just abandoning the existing poly B and just replumbing it anew in that case. So we're talking about having to open up some ceilings and some walls.
Yeah,
So I mean, on a home that does not have lath and plaster, it's relatively easy to do. But if you are dealing with a home that has poly B and has, like, the old wood lath
yeah,
and the plaster in
yeah,
front of it, or
plaster.
drywall and plaster, plaster is miserable to repair. It is just the
You
worst.
can never get it smooth.
The worst. The
Yeah,
worst. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. It is 11:26, by the way, and we still have 73 open questions. This is awesome. Okay, what about shower stall grouting missing? Does the entire enclosure need to be redone or can it be
Yes.
repainted or repointed? Sorry.
I mean, you can keep regrouting it, but you're just going to continue to regrout it. Like, it's not gonna you're not going to not have to continue to do it. It'll continue to go away in almost every instance.
All right. Can you share your experience for older homes with pools? That might take up our last 4 minutes.
Um, I mean, they're usually built pretty well and they're usually in good shape. I mean, obviously, the issues that come into play with older pools are leaky pipes. And where you really can run into problems with older pools is the pipe that's at the deepest end of the pool, having that pipe start to crack. Um, that's problematic because the only way to fix that is to drain the pool. And anyway, yeah, I mean,
Ouch. Yeah.
yeah, you're usually better off to just fill it back in.
All right. Nazir is totally with you, by the way, on Anna's question about the poly B cemented to the floor. He's like, fiction. I've had problems where poly B has failed in floor. So there you go.
Just because I don't want people to take off on us. Folks, if you want to get a hold of us, you can reach us on here anytime. We're always here to answer your questions. You can book a call through our website with Carrie, and she will do everything in her power to answer your questions. I've got a phenomenal team that support me, and they can do a lot for you. And in the event that they're unable to, I am always here backstopping everybody. So, like, Team Spruce is in your corner whenever you need some help.
Got it. Okay. Dina, I'm looking at your question about mold and moisture problems. Um, I think I would speak to your managing broker about whether or not the tenancy can end and very possibly legal advice. I don't think that's something that Eric can weigh in on. Okay, yeah, it is 11:28. I'm looking for some easy ones here. Um, Okay, if you have a detached, I don't know if it's easy, but if you have a detached house from the 80s that has been renovated for 400K, but the poly brick structure hasn't been replaced, what advice would you give for such a house?
So,
Junius.
1980s home,
Yeah.
and it has poly B in it still.
Well, it says poly brick structure.
I'm guessing the brick is I'm assuming it's to do with poly B because I don't know what poly brick is.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, you're looking at a repipe. I mean, there's really no, there's
Okay.
no, there's no way around it. Yeah,
And yes,
I
he
got
wrote
time.
back and said poly B.
Yeah, yeah. I've got time for one more question. I do unfortunately have a hard
Okay.
out at 11:30 here.
Okay, the next question for you then is, do you need a kitchen reno permit if no major changes like moving plumbing or electrical?
If you're doing a re of a kitchen, you still need to get trade permits, right? You still
Yeah.
want to make sure that your electrical and your plumbing is being inspected, folks. But you do not need to get a building permit.
In
We
this,
only need,
sorry, in this example, there is no plumbing and no electrical work.
well, then
So
you
I don't know
can't
if
be
you're
redoing the
changing
kitchen.
cabinets maybe, or,
But if you're going to change a cabinet, you're for sure moving a sink out of the way.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
not sure.
yeah,
Okay. All right.
yeah.
It is 11:30 on the dot. We still have 66 opened questions. So I would say that your live session, your next live session, has all bunch of fodder here for you.
Well, I'm not even gonna lie. I am so grateful to have the opportunity to come here and be in front of everybody and share my experience and be a part of helping create the best realtors in the country through shared experience and learning of the things that I've learned over the years. So I appreciate everybody's responses on the Slido. We'll leave that open until probably end of day today, unless Alejandra, how long are we going to leave this Slido open for? Okay, well, while I
Oh,
wait for her to answer that,
sorry. Can you hear
um,
me?
yep,
Yes.
Sorry, I had it open until tomorrow.
awesome. So,
Yeah.
end of day tomorrow, the Slido will be open for getting your thoughts on what I should talk about in our next session.
Okay.
Assuming Jenny and Cheryl want me back. In
You
the
said it. Give the
um,
people what they want.
right. In the meantime, I really and truly am grateful for this opportunity, and I appreciate everybody taking time out of your busy lives to come in and join us and ask some questions. It really makes the experience so much more positive for
No
everybody. So
kidding.
I,
No kidding.
I'm really grateful for the experience. And I don't mean to be rude, Jenny. I should have given you a heads up at the beginning. I did have a heart out
Oh
today.
yeah, no.
I've
Hey,
got
we're
I've got
done.
another appointment at 11:45 that I
We're
actually
out.
have to travel to. So
Oh dear.
um,
Okay,
yeah.
go.
It's not too far
Hang
away
up.
though. Yeah. I sorry, it's so hard to say goodbye. No.
All right, we'll see you later.
Anyways,
Thank you so
yeah.
much. And for those
Thanks
still on the
everybody.
call, bye-bye. For those still on the call, we'll be sending out all 3 recordings next week. All right. Bye-bye.